we'll start the program very soon. Okay, so good morning, everybody. I'm Kathy Lopez, head of IITA Communication. I'm here with a team of media colleagues from Lagos, from Ibadan, also online colleagues. Plus we have colleagues, from DRC joining us online. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, bonjour. Or no, it's afternoon, right? Still morning. Yeah. So welcome to this media parley. For today, let me just mention briefly that we have started the program yesterday. Some of our colleagues were here, about 12 of them, and another few came this morning. So they joined the tour that we organized for our media colleagues. And then for this morning's activity, I'm going to ask Dolapo for our colleague to start the video, about IITA, just so everybody's on the same page. And then we will be asking, the important people to speak. But before that, okay. So we'll skip the video. So I think we'll ask, let me just introduce our Director General. You've already met Dr. Dashil yesterday. And then we will go right into the, deep dive into why we are here. Okay, so Dr. Ladies and gentlemen of the press and colleagues, so let me introduce our DG, the man of the hour, Dr. Nteranya Sanginga. He's from DRC. He has been our DG for more than 10 years. And we're really doing this activity, like we said earlier, because we want to hear the story, that's one, but we also want to establish a deeper relationship and strengthen our relationships with everybody on this team, to talk about the work of IITA and organizations like IITA and how we have been working with many partners to make sure that, we reach our goal of transforming agriculture in Africa. So I'll turn over to Jomi Layinka, who's actually leading this activity, and ask him to make an introduction before we turn over to the DG. Jomi?
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you very much. Thank you, DG. Thank you, DDG. Colleagues, gentlemen of the press, as we say, and ladies of the press. Thank you and welcome again, especially for those who are joining us this morning. A few of our colleagues just joined us this morning. Most have been here since last night, and we thank you for coming in, and we hope you have had a good time so far, especially in terms of your accommodation. Bridget was supposed to have led you into her ministry of enjoyment. We hope you had a good time last night and that you slept well. This morning, we've been on a tour of the facilities in IITA, and I have been mesmerized personally. I'm sure a few of you also have had quite some enlightening experience as to what IITA is all about and what it stands for. As I mentioned yesterday, and just to kick this off, this event is being put together, as Kathy said, to hear the story of IITA, particularly from the Director General, and especially the story of IITA under his watch. He became Director General of IITA 10 years ago, in 2011, and he has had 2 terms, and 10 years is a long time in the history of the organization, which is the organization itself is 54 years old. So he has had 10 years of, that's a chunk. And he also has had an earlier career in IITA. So he does know the story, and it would be nice to hear that story from him. And that's the principal reason why we're here. Coincidentally, and a tangential reason is to announce to us all that the Onirisha of Ife, which is the cradle of Yoruba people, has found in Dr. Sanginga a worthy African that is to be recognized and celebrated. And in that regard, he has offered to honor Dr. Sanginga as the AFURUGBIN-OLA of the source. AFURUGBIN-OLA of the source basically means the leader of the creators of wealth, especially in the area of agriculture. So that honor will be conferred on him on the 11th of December at the Palace of the Oni. If I may, by the way, the Oni is 6 years on the throne. And in these 6 years, he has only honored 3 people. I'm sure you know, and Dr. Sanginga is the first foreigner, in quotes, African, to be so honored, apart from 2 Yoruba people who had earlier been honored. So the Oni does consider Dr. Sanginga as a son of the soil. And as I said, those are tangential. I mean, the second part is the tangential reason. But the main reason, of course, is for us to understand what IITA has been doing, the trajectories, and especially under the tenure of Dr. Sanginga. And he's going to be telling us a few of them. Before I close, I'd just like to, Tolu is going to do a thing. Tolu, if you have that list, can I share it with me?
Sorry, Yomi, can we ask Dr. Dashil to give the opening remarks first? Yeah.
Okay.
Before we go to the introduction.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so I'll break here and have Dr. Dashil give the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Yomi. My Director General, my lifelong friend, my leader, Dr. Sanginga, members of the media, my IITA colleagues, all protocol observed. I welcome all of you. We're here today because of 2 people. His Imperial Majesty, Oni of Ife, and the Director General of IITA, Dr. Sanginga. Because on December 11th, the Oni of Ife will make Dr. Sanginga a chief. And that is wonderful, and that is a big honor to both Dr. Sanginga and IITA. Now, you might perceive that I'm probably not an expert on Yoruba culture and the traditions of chieftaincy and all of those things. But I think the reason I'm qualified to give an opening remark is because I met Mr. Sanginga, not Dr. Sanginga, in 1983, when he was a student at IITA with his family here. And I was a postdoctoral fellow. I'm actually younger than him, but somehow I got my PhD. So he is my senior. Now, I think, I could be wrong, but in the present IITA family, there's only one person that knows Dr. Sanginga longer than me. That is his beautiful wife, Charlotte. Dr. Sanginga, in 1973, 10 years before I met you, I decided to dedicate my life to working on agriculture to help in the developing countries. I didn't know how I'd do it. I didn't know all those things, but I decided I would do that. And there is one person in the whole world that has helped me achieve that vision in my own life, that I could contribute something to agriculture. In this case, it became Africa. And that is my Director General, Dr. Sanginga. I thank you very much for helping me really achieve what I wanted to do in my own life. And that's why I wanted to, I think over the next few hours of time, you will learn about a lot of Dr. Sanginga's accomplishments. But I want to tell you who he is, a friend and a colleague. He is a visionary leader. And it is because of his vision that he has been able to move IITA and others outside of IITA to go in the direction of transforming African agriculture. And he is a outstanding, I would say, partnership stroke friendship builder. I've never met anyone in my life who has more friends than Dr. Sanginga. Any place I go, if I say I work at IITA, they say, oh yes, Dr. Sanginga is my friend. That's like the first thing they say. Oh, okay, that's very good. And this has been one of his strongest tools in his life and in his career. Because when he was much younger and even had friends in his own age group, all of those friends, I shouldn't say all, but many of those friends now hold powerful positions in many different institutions in Africa. And that long-time friendship has developed such a strong trust and bond that literally thousands of people in Africa trust Dr. Sanginga and listen to him very carefully when he speaks. He is a man that when he promises you something, you can be rest assured he will deliver. I'm speaking from 38 years of experience with him. This didn't start yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Sanginga is extremely passionate about all of those that work under him. His staff is always amongst his top priorities. He loves them, he respects them, and he knows that to be successful, his staff must be behind him. He makes that a key component of everything he does. He's a patient man, and I have to thank him because he's always been very patient with me. Sometimes I don't grasp some things as fast as me. Well, I know I don't do them as fast as he does, but sometimes he has to explain things several times for his team members before we all start to understand the vision that he has and can contribute. He's very patient about that. He builds teams quickly and successfully. He organizes them very well. And, you know, recently I've been seeing a transformation in Dr. Sanginga. It may not be new to him, but it was new to me. And that is that his passion is more than agriculture. His passion is for the total development of Africa. And I thank God for that, because we know that agriculture is a key component of that transformation of agriculture. But I think that as we look to the future, there's a very realistic possibility that, you know, 10 years from now, we will recognize that when he was a younger man, he was really dedicated to agriculture. But as a more senior man, he's basically in the middle of his career. As a more senior man, he will be noted for his total commitment to the development of agriculture, development of Africa, not just agriculture. Dr. Sanginga, I salute you. I thank you for everything you've done for Africa, everything you've done for Kenton-Dashiell, and I wish you all the best in everything you do in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dashiell. What a great testimony after 38 years of friendship, working together in this vineyard. Gentlemen of the press, we've had that little tip, both from a personal perspective and a professional colleague. That should give us a sense of who Dr. Sanginga is. We will get to hear him directly and share some of his thoughts. Before I move on to introduce some of our colleagues, I had the privilege about 6-7 years ago to have an interview with Dr. Sanginga. It was a fairly long interview. And in that interview, I engaged him on a number of issues and questions about his vision, about his strategy, about Africa, about leadership, about, like Dr. Dashiell was saying, not just about agriculture, but about the transformation of Africa. And he had some profound answers and reflections in that. He has flattered me over the years by saying that interview, in a lot of ways, shaped his subsequent decisions, in that he reflected on that interview quite often. And because it provided an opportunity for him to think deeply about some of the issues I raised with him. And so that has formed the basis of the relationship that he and I have had in those years. Distinguished gentlemen and ladies, I'd like to invite Tolu Olabode to just introduce here. Wow. Yeah, so we'll just do self-introductions there.
But just quickly, please, just the name and your organization.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll just start from this side of the table round until we get back to Kathy. And if there's anybody outside of the table that needs introduction, we'll throw back to you. So we'll start with your name and organization.
Okay, my name is Adam Makadi from African Newspaper, Journalist Magazine, because you are reporting on government. I'm Babatunde Jimo. I'm with Vanguard Newspapers. Shayolu Mede from the Guardian newspaper.
Wale Sodiq, News Agency of Nigeria.
My name is Abiodun Alade from Daily Trust newspaper.
I'm Jeremiah Okay, Daily Trust newspaper.
Demola Babalola, Visitor Newspaper.
Tosin Odubo, Channels Television.
Wale Ochedo, CBC News.
Akwande Sojuju from The Nation.
Jejide Gundaro Tribune. Mojid Alabi, I report for Premium Time.
Jamilat Nasiru, the cable newspaper.
And can we have our colleagues from DRC?
Yes, please. Yes, our colleagues from DRC, we want to meet you. Michelle, could you do that for us? Self-introductions.
Yes. We have Bati Kasindi, he's from Sunrise Press Online, and we have Genovic Mboa, he's from Top Congo FM. We have Mr. Kialu, he's from Mandeleo Radio. And we have Mr. Hiro, he's a correspondent of many national and local media in DRC.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen on the other side, thank you. We know you are engaged with us. At the appropriate time, we'll be taking your comments, questions with the Director General. For now, once again, we welcome everybody, and we'll just like to now formally introduce and welcome the DG to give his address. Kathy, you want to introduce the DG so you can take off from here?
So, well, we don't need, the DG does not need an introduction. So let me just call on Dr. Nteranya Sanginga. The folders that you have all the information about him. Yeah, so let me call on Dr. Sanginga, our Director General. Please allow the book.
Looks like I'm preparing a campaign.
Who knows?
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, first of all, I would like to apologize. I was supposed to be with you yesterday, and we have probably taken some time out of your schedule. It's because I'm in the middle of a lot of discussions with the board of IITA, and there are some major decisions that we are taking, and I have to be part of that discussion. So I really apologize for that. But you are certainly welcome to IITA. So I've never heard Dashil speak so nicely about me, and at the time I was not recognizing myself. he was saying, but the truth of the matter is that we spent a lot of time together, and he's right. I came here as a student in 81 when he was basically staff already. And I'll tell you that I learned a lot from Dashil. I remember spending a lot of time with him in Mokwa, week working in the field. And actually, he taught me how to use a tractor and plant soybean. Just to tell you how long I've known him. So what I'm going to do, because I think probably a lot of questions are going to come from you, and therefore I'm going to be extremely brief and speak about the past, the present, and the future, the way I see it. And we're trying to, because I was supposed to leave this year, in fact, this month, but my contract was extended because we are in the middle of reform in international agriculture centers. And the board found that it was wise for me to stay, to take the institution through that reform and then go. So we've been trying to think about basically what we've been able to accomplish here. And as you'll notice on one of the pictures, the 7th Director General, I'm the 7th one. You will see that I'm the only African there. And most of them have been, well, I think the majority, 5 out of 6 Americans and 1 European. So I became the DG, and I'm going to tell you how that happened. And so, because we wanted, none of the DG has written a memoir about IITA. So I decided as an African to document all what I've been doing here, not just because of me, but I will just try to imagine that the future generation will learn a lot from my experience. So I decided to write a book with some very good friends here first, Kati will help me writing that book. And I was writing that book during my travels, so on the airports, and I'll take my pen and I started writing, so I have a manuscript of that book. And in that book, basically, I'm just narrating the story, some pictures here of what has been my journey since I was born in DRC. So, born from a poor family, and if you want to see the equivalent of the place I was living in DRC in Baden, I know you know Bere. Bere, I was born in a place like Bere, and the street boys playing football on the road. Actually, during the old period, my primary school, I started playing football. In secondary school, I started playing in basically the major team of the town, just like Shooting Star here. And before going to the university, at the time I had a choice to continue playing football because most of the people who played football during that period couldn't go to school. And so it was really, I don't know, luck or exceptionally, I could play football and go to the university at the same time. And actually excelling in the two because I was just one of a coach of the national team in DRC as equivalent. I played for, and my first trip outside DRC went to China, France to play football because I was playing in national team. So it was difficult. Sometimes you are in the middle of a session, but the national team say, no, you have to go and play football. And, and so I basically chose at the time to abandon football and concentrate on my studies. And interestingly enough, when I finished my first degree, I had first class almost time. And the tradition in DRC was when you have a first class, they will return you at the university as a lecturer. And then I was returned as a lecturer in the Faculty of Agriculture. And yes, normally after 2 or 3 years, you get a scholarship to go and study either in Belgium, because we were colonized by Belgium, or in US. So I got a scholarship in 81 of going to study in America, in the US, US of Minnesota. 6 months before I traveled, a scientist from IITA, Dr. Ayanaba, came to my university and gave a lecture, a seminar. And in this seminar, he was describing all what IITA was doing as research, describing, and even showing the picture of this campus that you've seen here today. And his lecture was so convincing. And he was a soil microbiologist, and I was studying microbiology as well, soil microbiology at the university. And I said, I must work with this scientist. And I took a decision during that time of instead of going to the US, I decided to come to Nigeria, to come here at IITA. And when I took that decision, a lot of people laughed at me. And they said, oh, how can you just refuse to go to US and you go to Nigeria? Because, well, they didn't have an idea of what this campus was. And actually, when I landed at the airport during those periods in 81, so we landed at 4 o'clock. The IITA people decided that you can't leave the airport at 4 o'clock. You have to sleep there, and we'll come and pick you in the morning. And I said, why? Oh, because after 4 o'clock, the armed robbers in Lagos were creating a lot of, and actually, at that moment, I regretted why I didn't go. So, in any case, I came here, and at the time, met with Bashir. And I came on this campus. I have to tell you, I couldn't speak English because, well, we studied in French. This is a place, and you can sense that my English is Nigerian. Basically, 3 months I had to write my proposal in English. And I remember very well during my experiments in the lab there. And during that period, there was a system at IIT every Wednesday, a scientist or a fellow had to give a seminar. 6 months after I was here starting my PhD, I was chosen. Actually, my supervisor pushed me to go and give a seminar. And yeah, well, I couldn't refuse. I prepared myself, and it was Wednesday. I remember very well at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and I was playing football here as well because there was a team of scientists, and so I was playing football. And there was a famous scientist from Malawi called Spider Mugogo. Was a good friend. So I was asking him, how am I going to do? Can you advise me? And so, and he told me, go to I house, take a shot of whiskey. And that will give you courage. And basically I went there and took a shot of whiskey. And at 3 o'clock, then I had to go into the conference center. And it was really quite interesting because the DG was the third DG there, Hartman. And I think that day he decided just to go to the seminar And during that period, the DGs were like God in this place. Decide to go there and people know that it's going to go there. The room was full. So just to listen to this Congolese with terrible English accent. And to cut the story short, I presented my seminar. And after the seminar, I think it went so well that the DG decided to call me in his office here. I came in his office and he called my supervisor and told my supervisor, no, this student, giving him an additional scholarship that will allow him to go and do his experimentation, part of the experimentation in Europe. And basically, that is part of the story. So I did my PhD here. When I finished, I went back home because I had to go back to teach to the university. I went to DRC. But after the first year, the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna contacted me and they offered me a job in Vienna. And they offered me that job because in my PhD research, I was probably among the first people to use radioactive materials to study fertility. And the Atomic Agency is basically specialized for that. And I went there and I was probably the first African to work in that lab and several studies there. And I spent 3 years there. And interestingly enough, during that period when I was in Vienna, working in the lab, the fourth Director General of IITA, Dr. Steifer, he was a sportsman and wanted to ski. He went to ski in Vienna in a place called Linz. So when he had finished, he was visiting the Atomic Agency, and they told him that there is an African who is doing very good experimentation there. Because for 2 years, I had basically succeeded in getting the best award of the workers among the 4,000 agencies in Vienna. So I was a curiosity, if you like, to say. And he came to visit me. And so I explained all what I was doing. It was almost a continuation of the research I was doing here, but in Vienna. Then he told me, he asked me a question, so what are you doing here? I hear you're doing a very good job, and so, but you are in Europe. Why can't you do all what you're doing here in your own continent? And so, and I said, well, you know, I didn't want to tell him that the pay was better than him. And I had almost a long-term contract, almost a life contract. It's like you went there. So they said, well, you're going to be useful for your own countries, what you're doing here. And he came here, I was a teacher. 2 weeks later, I got a telex, him offering me a job to come. So I decided in basically 89 to leave Vienna and came to IITA here as a scientist. In microbiology. And then since 89, I started a career here that lasted for 13 years. Here, after 13 years, I went through all position of principal scientist, head of the program, and I would say deputy director, if you like to. And in 2002, after 13 years, I decided to move from IITA because there was an institution in Kenya. It's called tropical soil biology and fertility that needed a director. And again, that's a coincidence because the director was a British man who was one of my co-supervisors when I was doing my postdoc, Mike Swift. He was retiring and they needed a second director of TSBF. So I was selected for that position. And I occupied that position for 8 years, from 2002 to 2011. And what I did in that institution, just to give you an idea of what it was, when I joined, that institution had only 4 scientists. 4 scientists and the budget of 1.2 million, and working only in Kenya almost. When I left, we had moved the budget from 1.2 million to $14 million. And with from 3 scientists, we were almost, I think, 29 scientists and 100 staff. During that period, before leaving in 2010, I spent almost probably 20 years working on an international organization. I decided that I was going to go back home to DRC. And basically, and during that period, I was just thinking, why should we Africans, every time working in an organization or institution that has been created by people from outside Africa, and what can't we build our institutions? So I decided as I want to build one DRC, and I started building it in a place called Bukavu, DRC. This campus started building is called President Obasanjo campus today. It's a big campus that I started. And that was going to be principally my career, but that coincided with the time as well that the IITA needed a new DG because Hartman had finished his term and they needed a DG, well, of course, to replace him. And of course, well, I could never imagine that IITA would select an African. So I was not even interested in applying and so on. During the course of our discussion, I think one person decided to take his own initiative. That's Dr. Adesina. Adesina was the president of the African Development Bank. He was a scientist here, like me, and we spent 8 years together in Kenya. I was working for Rockefeller Foundation. I working for that institution. So he came one day to my house and said, "Oh, Sanginga, yeah, well, apply for this job." And I said, "No, you know, I'm going home." And he decided to nominate me. He wrote, I still have that page, the letter. He nominated and sent it to the headhunter who was basically looking for those candidates. To cut the story short, and then the board of IITA selected 3 of us, so 2 Americans and myself. And we went for that interview in Vienna, not Vienna, Netherlands. And it was really quite interesting because the 3 of us, every person had 1.5 hours of interview and questioning. So I was the last one to be interviewed. When that finished, my interview, and I was going in the room, we were in a hotel. And I went to the room, I did my best, you know, and 45 minutes later, the board called me. So when they called me, I said to myself, "This is too fast. I'm just going to tell me." Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, so yeah, well, after 45 minutes, and the board, there were 13 members, 2 Africans, and all the other 12, 11, they were all from US or Europe, all I would say white, if you like. Yeah. No racism here, but that was the composition of the board. So this saying, "Oh, they're going to tell me, thank you for coming." But after 45 minutes, they said, "Well, unanimously, the board is choosing you as a DG." And they congratulated me. And then the journey basically started of IITA. And this, I'm going to put this in 3 parts. And the first part was extremely difficult when I arrived here. So as the Shield say, we were all scientists here. This campus was really the place to go. Everything was very, very well maintained. The place where you like to be and so on. After living this place for 8 years, the first time we came back, here was my wife was telling me, why did you choose to come? IITA is really deteriorated. And you see in this booklet here. Infrastructure is to give you an example of what IITA has become. You open this page, we see all the rubbish. This was not only outside IITA, it was even inside. In some places, you put in the drive. That's how the campus really recognized. That was one problem. The second problem was that in 2011, IITA had a budget of 41 million. But during that time, IITA as a DG is going to have made an investment which was a Ponzi scheme, and IITA lost $15 million. $15 million out of the budget of 41 million. So basically, you had a center with 35 million only. That's the situation I inherited. When I arrived here, most of the staff of IITA were leaving IITA to go and work at the university. Before, you could never imagine that, but in 2011, 2012, most of the staff were not promoted, the morale was very down, so we're running away from this place to go and work. So my first task was basically to resolve the crisis of 15 million deficit. And the board chair came here with me, and the first advice in this room he gave me was to say, the way we do it, reduce the staff, sack staff. Calculation made on the staff of 800, we needed to sack 320. So I'm now just saying, as a first African DG, your first task is going to be sacking your African brother. So very difficult. In any case, well, that was an option for me. And so during the first 2 years, I spent a lot of time going across the world, looking for resources, not only financial resources, but looking for partners, looking for the people who could help me in that situation. And at the time, I appointed President Obasanjo as the ambassador of IITA because you needed that very strong arm to help you navigate through some of this program. It was during that period as well that my friend Adesina was the Minister of Agriculture here. So really the two people help a lot to address this kind of situation. And of course, I had a lot of friends outside Ibadan. One point to mention here as well, which was really very important in terms of strategic thinking about what IITA needs to do. So Ashil and I and some colleagues were doing research, very good research, but it was really on a panel stage. And the impact of IITA research was not really very well taught, and were criticized because of that. So we decided basically that we will take most of the technologies of IT and trying to scale them at a high level. That's what we created basically some business incubation platforms that you've seen under the youth program in that respect. And I remember Bill Gates came to visit some of the work we're doing in Kano, and I was there, and when we were explaining to him, and I was seeing some of the good technology you saw probably like AFLASAFE today, and the question he asked me, he said, okay, you're having impact on thousands of farmers. Can you give me a plan on how you can reach a million of farmers? And that's why we created the department that Sheil is leading today, which is called Partnership for Delivery. And that program has really helped to scale a lot of the technologies in Africa. Just to tell you, the first term, what we had accomplished just in terms of key indicators. So our budget, which was, as I said, 35 billion, after 5 years, we had tripled it, more than tripled it, because we moved from 35 million to 120 million. We had only 115 scientists, but after 5 years, we had 250. Our workforce basically was only of 800, around 800, moved to 1,500. During that period, we built major station, really big facilities in Tanzania, Zambia, and the DRC. And basically, and we started working with a lot of organizations, including some head of states. And yeah, so I think that was a result of the first term. And the second term, basically, we had a major breakthrough working with the African Development Bank, especially when Dr. Desina became the president, and we helped him design the largest program of the African Development Bank called the Feed Future of Africa. And a major program of that, I'm sure that you heard about that, is the technology for African agriculture transformation. So that is a program working almost in 28 countries in Africa with a large impact. So really, basically, that period saw IITA basically have very strong impact and the recognition across Africa. And that's the time we got the Food Prize Award 2018, which basically culminated most of the effort we've been doing. So really, that's actually the present. So what about the future? So I'm going to go. And some of the major programs we created here, among those are the business incubation platforms that take into the private sector. Created the youth program, you heard about the entrepreneur. And we created a program called STEP, Start Them Early program, which as the governor of Oyo State is really embraced, and I'm sure that you heard about that, and how this empowering the young students from secondary school to change the mindset about agriculture. So analyzing all of that, I think the missing link has been the political dimension. So in Africa, you hear every head of state say agriculture is a priority. But when you go to the budget, agriculture has the least share of the budget. In Nigeria, for example, the budget, the percentage of the budget, the total budget to agriculture is 1.7 instead of 10. You can't say you're developing agriculture with that kind of an investment. And this is going all over the place. So we are creating another program which is called this is Africa Agriculture Leadership Institute. In that, we would be working with the head of state trying to change their mindset and build that political will in the way of transforming agriculture in Africa. I think that's what we'll be working on. When we finish, we have two patrons who have accepted to join that program, the President Obasanjo and the President of DRC, the President Tshisekedi. Among those groups, we have the governor of Oyo State as well, Makinde, who is joining us in that journey of basically engaging the leadership in Africa. So we're creating that institute. It will start operating in DRC and Nigeria. And there's a good reason, because I'm from Congo, but I'm from Nigeria too. And I've chosen Ekiti State to be my state. Origin. So really, so there is basically a summary of what my journey has been from the time I came, well, the time I was playing football in my hometown and coming here to IITA, and I'll be leaving next year in October. Thank you.
Wow, what a marathon story told in sprint form, in brief. Obviously, as we can imagine, there are huge gaps in that story in terms of how each of those transformative pillars were created and established and sustained. As Kathy has indicated in the kits that we all have, the more details of all of these portrait history can be found in those magazines and literature that you all have. But I guess that we have a sense of the journey. And it's interesting, the autobiographical manner in which the DG has told this story. It gives it a human flavor. And so we can understand the journey personally for him and institutionally for IITA. So I think that we will get into the questions and Gigi would have some answers for us in whatever direction we choose to go. So between Kathy, Festus and I will conduct this, and our colleagues in DRC who are also waiting to ask a few questions. Actually, we will start with them so that they can have a voice in this. Michelle, I think you should help us coordinate this part of the conversation by indicating or moderating these parts in the next 5-10 minutes. Questions can be asked, and then the DG will make notes. Maybe we'll do them in parts. Let's have 1 or 2 questions first. The DG responds to them, and then another 1 or 2 if there are, and then we'll come back to our colleagues here. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think I can give the. Hello, Kialou, Mr. Kialou, can you hear us?
Oui, je vous écoute bien. Je vous écoute bien.
Vous pouvez commencer avec votre question.
Voilà, merci beaucoup pour l'opportunité que vous me réservez. Content de retrouver une fois de plus Monsieur le Directeur Général que j'ai interviewé déjà en 2014, peu avant l'installation du centre de Kalambo. Monsieur le directeur général, au vu de tout le parcours que vous avez raconté depuis que vous êtes engagé comme directeur général de IITA en 2011, êtes-vous fier d'avoir mis la main sur l'étrier ou le pied sur l'étrier, et quelles sont les principales réalisations que vous avez mis sur pied au profit de la population du Sud Kivu? Parce que je dois rappeler quand même que la province du Sud Kivu, c'est votre province d'origine. Quelles sont les principales réalisations que vous avez apportées en étant à la tête de la direction générale de l'IITA? Et est-ce que vous êtes sûr que, par exemple, l'installation du campus au bassin de Kalambo a apporté un plus au panier de la ménagère ici au Sud Kivu, en République démocratique du Congo?
Let me just say, Michelle, before we continue, gentlemen, especially since they're speaking in French, we have an interpreter online who would help us interpret this question for our own purpose here. Of course, the DG understands the question already, but we don't. So the interpreter, can we bring him on to briefly interpret that question to us?
So we'll just like to request Michelle to do the interpretation because it's technically impossible to bring in the interpreter. He's on another channel at the moment.
Oh, okay. Michelle, could you do us the favor? Interpret the question to us.
I think, yes. Mr. Kialu is the list of Mandela Radio. Mandela Radio is a radio in South Kivu. So he asked, okay, he asked a question to the DG, if all accomplishments of IITA did in DRC, how rural population can touch the how can I say, can touch the concrete results, because it's difficult for rural population to have maybe some products from agriculture sector because of the infrastructure. So how the population can have concrete results of all IITA did?
Okay, thank you. Since the DJ understood the question, of course, you will respond now in English, and you will continue the explanation. Yes.
For them to ask questions.
I think I didn't catch all questions, but I think
yes. So
the DG can also.
The next question then. Go ahead,
yes.
Michelle. The next question.
Okay. Mr. Hiro, you have a question?
Ouais, je suis là.
Okay, we can start.
Vous me recevez? Ok. Merci beaucoup pour l'opportunité et félicitations au docteur qui fait vraiment la fierté de toute une nation, de tout un continent. On ne va pas le réduire à la nation, mais il fait l'honneur de tout un continent et du monde entier. Nous sommes fiers de lui. Ma question va tourner autour de l'obtention qu'il vient d'avoir récemment pour l'ouverture, je ne sais pas, d'une ONG ou d'une fondation à caractère international, un institut AARE, qui est en train d'être construite à Bukavu, au Sud Kivu, et au Nigeria, si je ne me trompe pas. Et le docteur a même reçu l'approbation et l'accompagnement du président Félix Tshisekedi, le président de la RDC. Nous voulons savoir un peu de curiosité, hein, on veut savoir quelles sont les attributions de ces institutions-là. Est-ce ça va travailler uniquement sur les entrepreneurs, pour les entrepreneurs dans l'agriculture, ou ça va travailler avec des étudiants, des chercheurs ou les élèves? Nous voulons en savoir un peu plus comment cette institution qui a obtenu la carte blanche au niveau international va fonctionner et quelles seront les attributions et comment ça va se passer.
Good, Michelle, let's take the next question if there's any, so that BDG can answer all in a stretch. Do you have any other question? No need for interpretation yet.
I think, yes, we have another from Mr. Jovi of Top Congo.
Go ahead.
If Mr. Jovic is not, we can have Mr. Bat from Sunrise. Yeah. Mr. Bati, vous avez la parole.
Vous m'entendez?
Désactivez votre micro, vous avez la parole.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, oui.
Allô?
On t'entend.
Allô? Vous m'entendez?
On vous attend.
Et Génovic, hein, je voulais quand même féliciter d'abord le docteur pour cette cérémonie. Quand même, c'est quelque chose à saluer. Mais je voulais savoir si le roi et les autorités civiles sur place ont invité le président de la République. Parce que c'est un grand honneur pour le pays, pour la RDC.
That's pretty brief, and thank you for being brief.
Okay, merci, cher partenaire. Est-ce qu'il y a un autre journaliste qui a une question?
Oui, moi.
Oui, allez-y.
Bonjour, je suis Bati Kassindi pour le camp de Sunrise RDC, un média d'information générale. Je voudrais d'abord remercier tout le monde de l'opportunité accordée à notre portail et aussi féliciter les organisateurs pour cette activité qui couronne le fils du pays dont le Ouest sont reconnus au niveau international, mais que beaucoup d'entre nous ici, localement, ne connaissent pas encore et que je pense vont connaître au vu des activités qui s'annoncent, notamment le couronnement par le roi. Mais je voudrais, ma question, s'il faut être bref, consiste à savoir, et elle s'adresse au docteur Sanginga, consiste à savoir, est-ce qu'il y a une politique d'extension à travers les pays des activités de l'IITA, non seulement à Bukavu où les activités sont déjà, comment dire, portent déjà des fruits. Est-ce qu'il y a une politique qui va dans le sens de tendre les activités de l'IITA de manière à ce que l'organisation puisse faire bénéficier non seulement une partie de la population, mais une grande partie des Congolais dont l'agriculture aujourd'hui s'avère être l'un des moteurs du développement aux côtés des autres ressources naturelles. Merci.
Monsieur Bati, nous ne vous avons pas très bien capté. Vous pouvez reprendre votre question si.
Je disais ma question s'il fallait la résumer. Là, ça va, vous m'entendez? Allô?
Oui, allez-y.
Voilà, je voudrais savoir si le docteur, au vu des années passées à la tête de l'IITA, est-ce qu'aujourd'hui, avec ce qui va suivre, notamment le couronnement par le roi AARE, y a-t-il une politique de sa part pour pouvoir étendre les activités de l'IITA sur l'ensemble du territoire national qui possède plus de 80% des terres arables? Est-ce qu'il y a une politique qui va dans ce sens-là de manière à ce que les activités qui sont déjà porteuses de fruits au niveau de Kivu soient aussi, comment dire, étendues au niveau national? Là, ça va.
All right, I think, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, colleagues in DRC.
La question a été comprise.
I think the DG can respond to those so we can move on. There are quite a number of other people who want to also have an intervention. We've got to leave this place very shortly. So the DG will respond to those questions in French, and he who has responded in French will also respond to us in English so that we know what exactly is transpiring. So the DG.
Bonjour, Michel, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Il y a une dernière question, s'il vous plaît, une petite dernière, importante aussi. Nous voulons savoir aussi quelle sera l'implication sociale de ce couronnement. Aujourd'hui, le DG est couronné, il fait la fierté de toute l'Afrique. Quelle sera l'implication sociale au niveau de la RDC et de toute l'Afrique par rapport à ces positionnements de roi de la sémence? Il va rester traditionnel, il sera scientifique, il sera lié à la recherche, il sera lié à quoi? C'est quoi l'implication sociale? Quelles seront les retombées? Ou comment ça va se passer après ces couronnements tant attendus? C'est ça ma question, je vous remercie.
OK. Est-ce que nous pouvons répondre? Vous nous attendez là?
Oui, merci DG. Oui, vous pouvez répondre. Je pense qu'ils ont terminé avec les questions.
Oui, d'abord, il faut leur dire bonjour de ma part. Nous sommes très contents qu'ils aient accepté de travailler avec toi sur ces programmes. Je commencerai par la question la plus facile. Oui, le président de la République, Tshisekedi, a été invité pour ces cérémonies, lui et le président du Sénat. Nous espérons que l'une d'entre ces deux personnalités pourra être présente. L'institut qui s'appelle Ali est en train d'être construite effectivement à Bukavu, à Kalambo, qui sera construite ici au Nigeria aussi. L'objectif, c'est pratiquement, disons, d'amener à ce que les politiciens, que ce soit des ministres, les présidents, puissent commencer à prendre, disons, l'agriculture sérieusement. Et nous avons remarqué que souvent, vous avez des ministres qui sont nommés tout simplement à cause de la politique. Par exemple, disons, le ministre de l'Agriculture au Congo pour le moment, il a fait, c'était incontable. Donc, vous comprenez très bien que, disons, le leadership en agriculture doit être préparé, et pas être préparé tout simplement au niveau, disons, de ces ministres-là, mais nous devons commencer à sélectionner quelques jeunes qui peuvent, disons, dans le temps, assumer cette responsabilité. Donc, ça commence même à l'école secondaire, identifier les quelques jeunes que nous pourrions former pour occuper ce rôle dans le petit. L'extension, disons, au fait, des programmes, disons, de l'IITA, se fait partout au Congo. Pour vous dire, là où nous sommes, par exemple, très activement, à Kinshasa, nous avons un bureau là-bas, on travaille dans la province du Bas-Congo. On va aller bientôt au Kasaï et au Katanga. Et puis au Nord Kivu, nous avons déjà des programmes à l'Équateur. Parler de l'impact, disons, dans le Sud Kivu, j'espère que notre collègue qui a parlé sait bien l'histoire des poissons du lac Kivu, tilapia du lac Kivu. L'histoire du manioc, la maladie de manioc, disons, ça allait disparaître dans tous les bouchis, c'est à cause de l'IITA qu'on a pu effectivement arrêter tout cela. Alors, l'implication sociale de ces couronnements est aussi simple, c'est vraiment un engagement aussi de commencer à s'occuper, disons, de la couche la plus délicate pour le moment, c'est surtout les jeunes sans boulot. Et nous pensons que nous pouvons contribuer tout simplement en mettant, disons, des programmes de jeunes, des entrepreneurs de jeunes, pour commencer à pratiquement créer des entreprises agricoles et qui pourront donner, disons, travail aux autres. Ça, c'est brièvement que je peux dire cela. J'espère au mois de janvier, quand je serai, disons, de retour au pays, nous pourrions avoir peut-être une session avec vous autres à Kinshasa ou à Bukavu. Je vous remercie pour cela. Yeah, so here I think the questions were just about the impact, about basically what's the social meaning of these chieftaincies, and how can that help in DRC, for example? Some of the questions, and basically, and how do we extend the kind of impact of the research created in those stations in DRC to other places in DRC? Just to let you know the size of DRC, DRC is 3 times bigger than Nigeria in terms of mass land. And we have half of the population in Nigeria, of Nigeria. That's to give you the size. And the President Obasanjo believes that very, very, very strongly. If the 2 countries, Nigeria and DRC, are not well developed, then there is no hope for this continent. On the contrary, today, those 2 countries will get the proper leadership and develop the whole Africa will. It's to give you an idea of what DRC, just yesterday we were having, and I was part of that forum, the business forum. DRC has 70% of cobalt and coltan, and which that mineral is going to be so important into the transition to transition from petrol to electric cars. So the forum yesterday in DRC was discussing about that. 2/3 of that mineral come from DRC, but the people don't benefit from it. So it's Chinese, US, and so on. And so we were trying to find ways of basically placing DRC in the value chain of that business, which is going to be trillion of dollars. So just to give you an idea of, but the country has been terribly led for the last past, I would say, 60 years. 60 years. So, yeah, almost same here, right? Yeah, so. Anyway, so ready for questions.
Thank you. Thank you, my lady. We're ready for questions. So, who shoots first?
I think we should have all the questions. DG makes notes, then he answers, then we collect it.
So we'll do in batches. So why don't you just take the first 3 batches? First, let's make it brief so that we can go around. Yes, Adam.
It's a great pleasure talking to you. And I must say that from your career trajectory, you have really proved us that like your friend, you've got this Pan-African spirit and this thinking that Africans are best placed to solve Africa's problem through African solutions. What you have achieved here in the last 3 years is really transformative, and I must say, I must congratulate you for truly transforming Africa's agriculture. It's great what you have done. And the fact that you have chosen to come here, even when you had a better job somewhere, is also another testimony to your commitment to the development of this. The thing is, no one can do it for us. We just have to do it for ourselves. We just have to do it. And yourself and your friend, Kimi Additional, are truly representation of this kind of leadership. I don't need to bother us about what has happened at AFT in the last 5 years. We're all aware of the transformative impact of President Additional's work there. And I've seen that you've also done that here. We just pray that God Almighty give you a greater opportunity, better job for the motherland. Talking about your chieftaincy title, I think, like you said, is something good. As Africans, for the last 60 years, we have been talking about integration. And I think culture is also part of our continental integration. So the fact that the owner of the Imperial Majesty has decided to bestow upon you this title, I think it's both the testimony of commitment, development of Nigeria and Africa, and also an indication of the capacity of what we can do together if we work as African countries. Like you said, Nigeria and DRC are major powers of the continent. Unfortunately, our trajectory has not been what we wanted in the 60 years. I would say Nigeria had fared a bit better than Congo, which had been before colonization or suffered what I consider the most humanized, oppressed in Africa. I don't have to tell you about remind you about what happened during the reign of Leopold. Yeah. Leopold. And I mean through to Belgium, Congo, and even post-colonial Congo. The peak of which was the assassination of history. It's a very sad. So we are really inspired to see you do this great work for the continent, and we hope that you continue to do this life. I think your task is beyond agriculture, and we want to see you, have great beyond agriculture, so that you can, provide this transformative effect, continent at the level that your friend is doing at continent, because there's a limit to what you can do. Yeah, but with an opportunity like that of addition, it's huge. It's huge. So and finally, we are journalists here, and I understand the idea behind. Sometimes development organizations in the country do get a lot of great transformation, but then nobody knows about it. So, and they say if you don't blow your trumpet, nobody will have. So I would like to please, call on you to urge you to please help Kathy and her team help promote the great work they are doing in this institution. The thing is, publicity is not free. It can be journalists, but it doesn't come free. We just have to invest in and all the necessary infrastructure that will help you tell your story to the African world. The reason why this is important is your friend had a serious issue in a baby but I believe one of the things that at that time was because everyone was aware of the great work he was doing on the continent. It was easy for people to mobilize for him and say, no, this is just propaganda. You just don't like this guy. He has been doing great work. But if you don't blow your trumpet, when the time comes, nobody will know what you are doing because you are not doing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
He asked the question.
So, okay,
go ahead.
In terms of blowing your trumpet, I want the DG. I want taking back on what IITA, some of the legacy projects of IITA, which has to do with cassava. One, the Institute has worked on several varieties of cassava. Finally, but the problem has been with the adoption by farmers. And you finally came up with the issue of a basic tool on the economic impact of cassava and the adoption last year. Launch of the basic tool project. What has been the adoption by the smallholder farmers? That's one question. The second question has to do with that project with African Development Bank. I remember when additional was honored in US 2017 by the London World Food Prize. That was when this idea of TAT was presented, and before then I've been working on it. And IITA is one of the team working on that TAT project. Can you give us the situation, what TAT has been able to achieve after with AFDP? And finally, on the agripreneur project for youth involvement in agriculture. That idea was mooted and here in IITA. And I could remember having your team attending programs, even at AU in Ethiopia. At a point in Ethiopia, I was in Ethiopia at this, where this team, where your,
that was it.
Yeah, where they were shown to the world. So far, for some time, nothing has been heard about this program. Is it still in existence? And what has been happening in the last few years? Thank you.
Thank you. So we have 3 questions from him, Shaya.
Okay.
So Shaya, have any question? Oh, Wale, okay, go ahead.
So I just want to find out from you, considering your year of experience as the DG of IITA, I want you to assess what is the seriousness of African government in the area of agricultural development.
Thank you. We want him to nail them again. Because he has mentioned that before, but he's going to underscore it. He must make a case against them. Wale.
Okay, DG, sir. I first of all want to congratulate you on 2 things. One, on your achievements, which are so monumental and even intimidating to the extent that it has earned you, an extension of tenure by another 1 year. Secondly, I also want to congratulate you on that achievement, which has also earned you the recognition and honor from your new effect. Now, number 1, on the extension of tenure, you have told us that by October next year, you'll be leaving. What are your future plans after leaving office? That's number 1 in that area. Number 2, in that area still, is that how did you see your recognition, for that 15C title by the Onirisha? That's 2 questions in 1. Then the second question now, you will agree with me that one of the major challenges that Nigeria and indeed other African countries have been facing is food security. And I want to know the contributions of IITA in terms of food security in Nigeria and the entire African continent.
Thank you. Thank you. I think those are fairly long questions, 4, 5, 6. So the DG should respond to those ones, and then we'll come back to the trust.
Yeah. Well, Adam, thank you very much. I think we'll certainly follow up with advice and quite wise. I will take the question of how African leaders are serious about agriculture and the first statement, when Alessina became minister, the story I didn't say is, so he nominated me to the position of the DG. That was in 2010, remember, around October. And the selection is done in April 2011. Obviously, when I was called and the board confirmed that was successful, yeah, I called 3 people. Because I called my wife and I said, well, this is what has happened. Called my junior brother, Pascal, and the 3rd person I called was a decision. So when I called him, he was in Nairobi. I could hear him jumping. Yeah, so and I had to take the position on the 1st of November, 2011. So in September, we were too close. And every Saturday in Nairobi, we used to jog and we discuss and so on. And our families but it was one day, it was quite strange. He invited me to go for lunch. But we've never done that. His lunch, we go at home and eat, or he's busy, but he said, no, you must come. So I went with him and we sat down. And he starts almost dictating me what I should do when I come to Nigeria. I do have those notes. Still have those notes, and he tells me, Sanginga, work more with the governors rather than with the federal government. The IITA create a program, major program on cocoa. Right. Find a way of pushing the program that IITA is doing on research on introducing cassava in bread. We have to think very seriously about youth. And I'm taking note. Oh, Dangote is starting a program on cassava, find a way of working and so on. And I'm taking note, then I'm asking myself, why is telling me all these things? And I remember it was a Friday, finish and say, oh, well, again, we'll meet tomorrow to our jogging place. And I parted and he went. The following morning, I go to Jeffrey Park, where we were jogging. Usually, we're starting at around 9 o'clock. And I was there, waited for him. No, it doesn't show up. So then I went to his house and I met his wife, Grace. And I said, well, Akim must be sick. Why didn't he show up? And he said, you don't know. He traveled, he went to Nigeria this morning. And I said, what? To do what? Yeah, basically, it was called Jonathan to get the position of minister. So on Monday evening, he called and he said, you know what's offered me? As Minister of State, the Minister of Agriculture. What do you think, Sanginga? So, and I said, Akin, if you're second, there is nothing you can do. Just refuse the position. You are vice president here. For something, being minister, that will happen in the future, but don't take a second position because you don't want to do anything and so on. Actually, he traveled back to Nigeria. And I think the following day, Obasanjo called midnight because Obasanjo had discussed with Jonathan, and therefore Akin is the minister there. And the minister, now I started understanding why he was stating some of those things to me. So what we then I became a DG and the minister here. Well, when I was DG elect in September, after September, when he's back here, and I told him, okay, you have to work on your strategy and all kind of things, but I would like you, okay, your first address to the nation about your study, you have to come and do it at IITA. Yeah, and of course, you see probably in some of these pictures here. So he decided, of course, to come and spend 3 days. He has the first 3 days in the strategy. We sat down in this room and worked on strategy in September, and he read it from the conference center, and he's then started working together. This to tell you how some of these projects of IT was basically working for him. And we're talking about impact. All that impact, again, there was 21 million of additional food that's going to be produced. And so it was basically this center that helped him. And the places where, for example, we don't have specialty, like introducing wheat in Kano, we have to call our sister center to come and help in that Ikarda, to work on wheat and so on. So really the program of agripreneur as well, I started it here, and he embraced it. And the first time he came here, and we developed that program. We took this agripreneur to Jonathan, and when he went to the bank, and of course we expanded this program to 24 countries. So asking why it's not, we don't have done an analysis of most of the entrepreneurs are here, some of them. And I remember very well when we started the program, these young people, just to tell you the story, how it was. It was a famous Monday. On Monday at IITA, we employed casual workers. And that Monday in 2012, August, I usually drive every morning. I make a tour of the campus trying to see the no armed robbers. It's just good. I think it will be very good for you to drive around and see the forest we have and the lake and all kind of things. So then when I was coming up here at the gate of IT, there was almost 500 young people fighting with the police. And I said, oh my goodness, maybe this is a riot. I thought myself were rioting, right? So I went there. And I was just trying to find out what is there. And it was all young people, among those people here. Here. Among those young people, all fighting, and I decided to go and try to find out what's happening there. I took my notes, and I was interviewing all these, and I spent 3 hours interviewing all these young people, female, young men. And the question I was asking, who are you? What are you coming to do here? Did you study? And what is discipline? And it was really quite heartbreaking. I studied mass communication. 4 years without a job. Instead, make it instead. Well, I'm about technology, biosciences, biochemist. Yeah, what you're doing? Oh, I'm coming to do a job of painting, casual in cassava, weeding, and other things and so on. And that was just 1 month after we had the stampede that happened in Abuja. There was young people, 22 people died. It was immigration and so on. And then this time I decided to start this program with 60 of them that are selected. We came and sat in that boardroom there, and I was asking them, so what are we going to do? Let's use agriculture maybe to be a probably source of job for you guys and so on. And of course, for them, the definition of agriculture during that period was pain, poverty, and punishment, PPP. And yes, punishment, because if you're in secondary school, always want to punish you. They tell you go and cut grass. And then we started this program, and to tell you today, in a lot of countries and so on, 67% of the young people have established their own business or employed somewhere. I remember very well telling the Dayo and all those people or Tola or she there. When we started that program, we want to tell you because they thought IITA or IITA, you're getting salary, no things. And I said, I'm going to get a salary, but I can pay for a transport. And 50% of them ran away after 1 month because so those who stayed, I remember I was teaching them, I would spend 1 hour every day to go and teach them, and so they're all scientists. And I was dreaming, and I was telling them, one day I would like to see you become basically a job owner. You have your computer, you have your car, and you employ 3 or 4 people. So all these young people, they have now cars. Even my daughter, Tola, they have taken this program really, really very much up. And in some situation, they have been employed by a big organization. I know AARE, for example, was employed in Chemonics, and he's a big manager, is employing some other young people. So some have created their own business. I know Frostry, for example, they're exporting fish to US. They don't from themselves. So this is really kind of legacy project I'm talking about. The legacy project is really step, and I'm going to combine that with probably why this chieftaincy title mean something to me. I know some of friends, they say, oh, the chieftaincy, you can buy chieftaincy title, right? Some people do. But then when I was doing my PhD, I had a place called Fashola, here where I was working. I spent 3 years working there, and I was in Dashilo and soybean and so on. I was going in that place almost every day to do my research, and I became just like a local kid there. The people I was working with them, we sit down and we eat together. Sometime on Sunday, I would just go to Fashola, not working, and stay with them. And even when I became a scientist, I decided to continue doing work there and so on. So when I was, I think in 2018, when we got this award, I was just thinking, so what can we do with this award? We started this the agripreneur program that is going on and so. And I said, well, 2 things. When maybe it will be very good to take this program as a secondary school, start changing the mindset of the secondary school. So start taking agriculture as a business. So you ask a question to a young student of Fashola, do you know sausage? Yes, I eat sausage, but she doesn't know, or she doesn't know how it's made, right? Donut, you can put a lot of cassava in donuts. So things like that. But, and I was just saying, so what can I leave to these people of Fashola? It just says a way of paying back. So I decided to basically rehabilitate one of the grammar schools there and started the program there. You could see, because there are some pictures here, you will see how the school was completely abandoned. And one of the things I've been doing, even when I was going to school, you go and in those villages and see the schools. Sometimes you don't even, it's everything abandoned. And I said, well, probably we'll start rehabilitating some of the schools and so on. And that's how we started this program of STEP, where we took this governor, Makinde, to see what we were doing there. And he was fascinated with where going with Fashola. And he decided to take this program in all local government. The governor of Adamawa State has come to the state. So we basically think that this could be this kind of legacy program. So for one of the questions which have been asked here. The program of TAT, you talk about ADB. Again, I have to tell you that the whole program of agriculture strategy for the ADB was done by IITA. And I remember in 2015, the first strategy of TAT was written here. And so most of this, and then the kind of impact you see of that in those 28 countries that she can talk much better that, but you do have some places where you start having this kind of revolution on some of those commodity, like in Sudan. The TAT program has introduced wheat, and Sudan starts really producing wheat, like even in Nigeria. Okay, so and that could respond as well to the question of basic contribution to. So I'll end up with how our leaders are serious about agriculture. They are not serious at all. So because agriculture in most of the countries, I would say 90% of the countries in Africa, is still considered as a social activity. They are waiting for donors, foreigners to finance agriculture with grants. You can never be serious with that. And really, to say how serious this is, you take the example of Nigeria and DRC, again, talking about those two countries. Let me start with DRC. DRC imports almost 70% of agriculture products. For some of the things we can produce locally, import rice, import sugar, fish. We have all the waters, 60% of the waters are in DRC. And in DRC, we keep saying fish are retiring in water. They retire and die in water, but we import fish outside. Really, it's, and you go to the budget of agriculture in DRC is just similar here, is 1.7%. In Nigeria is probably 2%. So really, how can they be serious about that? And that's why there's, someone asked me about my future. We are creating this institute, ALI, just as a way of trying to build that political leadership in agriculture. And yes, I could be asked to be a minister quite easily in DRC. I speak with the president. He even asked me it's time to do that in 2019. But I refuse. I refuse simply because you go in this kind of situation, you're going to do exactly like others because they don't give you the means. So I basically decided that you can influence things from outside, and creating this institution basically, and remember very well how we are creating it. We are creating it with President Obasanjo, President Tshisekedi, because they agreed to it, Governor Makinde, but we are taking Adesina as well, and the President of IFAD, to have basically that voice, an international voice, where we can start making, maybe this is going to be our political party. And this is all the people create party, we can create an institution. That mandate is going to be basically changing the way thinking, people thinking. It's not going to be easy, but if we don't try, we will never know succeeded or not succeeded. I think that's all what I'll say about the kind of questions which you asked. There was a question about cassava. Yeah, cassava adoption. I'll tell you now, we know exactly the rate of adoption of cassava in Nigeria, and we can do that with DNA techniques and so on. It's about within 89% of all cassava planted here in these countries are coming from here, have been bred from IITA here. That's for sure. And most of the maize revolution here in Nigeria, when I was a scientist, when you go up north, and I walked a lot in the north, maize was stopping Mokoa at the time in probably 20 or 30 years ago. Going up north, we couldn't see maize. But today, maize is the major commodity because of the varieties IITA had been that's allowed to grow in a situation of the drought. So that's been big impact, I would say, yeah. In addition to cassava and other commodity, I would say. Okay.
Thank you. Let's come this way. We'll rush it. Yes.
Okay, so thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation and the answers that you have provided. I have two questions. First, sir, one of the main objective of our IITA is to ensure food security. We know the level of hunger in Africa. So, with your experience, what do you think we need to do as Africans to have food security in our continent? That is the first one. The second one is that you've been the first indigenous DG. We can see your passion. We can see this goes beyond the position for you. It is like a calling. What is the institute doing to ensure that we groom more people, that we have this passion, especially from this continent, people that are from here, that will be able to understand this better? Thank you.
Yes, please. Thanks.
The DG, I must thank you for preserving the heritage of IITA. We toured around the facilities in this environment and were able to see the number of cutting-edge scientific research centers all over the premises of IITA. But my concern is about 2 years ago, this country, Nigeria, was regarded or described as the poverty capital of the whole universe about 2 years ago. Yet IITA is performing wonders in the home front and across the continent of Africa. What you say is the problem of this country vis-a-vis food insecurity and food sufficiency. Number two is the fact that you've been there for 10 years now. Sustainability of this environment is also something that gives me concern. Before now, I'm an Ibadan man. I've practiced my journalism for 21 years in Ibadan. Each time I come across this area to cover an event or to attend workshops, seminars, I always believed that this is what they call Oyibo magic. I never knew it was an African that was leading the vanguard of turning this place around for the better, which means this continent, Africa, has a future if we have right leadership in authority, position of authority. So if that is the case, what will we say is your major challenge or the challenges confronting this IITA to be able to achieve all the set goals and objectives? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll take two more before we take a break. Majid, okay, so let's go to Majid. Seems like the next.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to call you the DJ. I'm going to congratulate the AARE AFURUGBIN-OLA. Thank you so much. That's so unique. It's so unique because when you look at the interpretation, it talks about the wealth creation. And I must congratulate you on this honor. You have explained the achievements so far, your interventions, your wheat production in the north and things like that. But everybody knows that within the last 1-2 years, 2 major catastrophes have confronted this particular country and the entire continent of Africa. Number one, insecurity. There have been violent attacks on farmers, violent attacks on schools, and general insecurity. It was compounded by the COVID-19. Coronavirus did its own, and based on the World Food Program statistics, we are aware that within this period, we are going to have about 8 million people in the Northeast who will face hunger. I think if I'm correct, I may not, but I know it's about 8 million people who are going to face hunger. Today, an average Nigerian, we want people to go into agriculture, but people are afraid to go into farm. We have seen young Nigerians, young farmers who have been harassed, who have been kidnapped, who have been molested, who have been killed and we have the stories all over the places. We ran through the country recently and we did statistics of how Nigerians, what their experiences in the hands of kidnappers. And I can tell you that no young Nigerian with a vision will want to go into the deep forest to go and establish farming or something like that. Now technology is being brought in. How do you think we can multiply this? I've seen yam cultivated in an environment like this. We don't need to go into the forest to do that. How do we multiply that to ensure that we bring agriculture with the head of biotechnology to assist young Nigerians to be able to cultivate in a secure environment, no longer in the forest? That's number one. Number two, this is an environment where biotechnology is really endorsed. But there has been some kind of controversies over GMOs. As a scientist, and as AARE AFURUGBIN, what is your take on GMO? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jemima.
I think Majid has asked a part of the question I was going to ask you. Became the DG in 2011, and the issue of insurgency started around 2009. And you said you've been up north. Would agree that a larger part of our crops come from the north. So how has the insurgency and subsequently through the years, the banditry affected how much the IITA is able to implement research and innovations and food production in that region?
Thank you very much. And we'll take one more from Radio IITA.
Thanks, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Standing on existing protocol, I'd like to congratulate the DG on the chieftaincy. I jotted the question because I want to read this. Agriculture is a culture, and that means that it is a way of doing something. So some elderly people in the rural areas are yet to embrace science and technology, maybe reduce their traditional beliefs. So I'm thinking that IITA has developed the Youth in Agripreneur and also the Startup Early Program platform. So would there be probably a program maybe for the elderly people, like maybe the agri-mentors for the elderly people in the village to help them have a better understanding of the need to employ technology in agriculture? And I believe that the chieftaincy title will also pave the way to bridge the gap between the older generation and the present generation. So my question is, would there be a platform for the elderly people who hold the pillars of tradition in their villages to help them have a better understanding of the need to employ science and technology in agriculture? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. That was a very, very good question. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of questions about food security, how do you sustain this base and so on. Again, I'll come to the future. As I said, I presented the past. I presented the present, and I've been analyzing and trying to see basically what will be the next step and what's a major challenge in Africa in general. And when you, I think I've been in most of the countries in Africa, probably that 53 countries, I've been in 51, probably except 2. And it's not a small trip, it's basically go and stay, discuss, study, and at the time, well, I visited a lot of, I was teaching in the University of Malaysia, for example, and visited most of the countries in South Asia. And I was trying to make the difference between, and we all know that, and the politicians keep talking about that, how the country in South Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, all those countries were at the same level as African countries in the 60s. Actually, most of the countries, including DRC, they were richer than those countries. And I remember very well my trip. I went to China in 74. 74 when I was at the secondary school. I was probably 20 years old. That was my first trip. When we arrived in Beijing today, and we went in 11 provinces, I was beating the Chinese. During that time, the most was the president. And the level of poverty there and so on. During that period, my scholarship in DRC was $70. $70, I could buy a motorcycle with saving 3 months as a student. During in 74 in China and Vietnam, I remember very well because of the lessons with the people. The monthly pay of a farmer there or a worker was something like $7. Right? So, see the difference from 74, a country where I was just coming from Kinshasa, it was so civilized, beautiful town. You go in misery in China, see you there. See what has happened today. It's completely the reverse. And it's not even the reverse, it's just, well, China is miracle. It's a miracle. Yes. China is competing with the US. Right? So, what created the difference? Leadership. Leadership. And that leadership came 10 years after Mao when China got a leader who decided that I'm going to transform this. And really, there is no magic. All these questions and security, food security and so on, go to purely leadership. It's obvious. So, yes, by extension, about some of the things the colleague asked there, when you go to, in some places here in Ibadan, and you come here, you said basically that you thought it was Oyibo was and yes, and so why have we made that difference here? And you say the scene is making a difference. It's African Development Bank. Yes, it's making a difference because it's not only passion, it's a vision. And a vision is not enough. You have to work very hard as well. And you have to have passion. I think for me, those are three things which have to be connected. You have to get a vision. You have to work hard with passion. And you have to have passion. So people like Dashil and I here who have the passion for this place. And you can ask me, and sometimes when I'm in DRC or I'm in town, I keep asking myself, why? Very simple things that we can do, we are not doing them, right? So I'm a member of a recreation club with my friends here. This is a place where you are there, we are calling Sanginga Garden. Right? That place was a place, it was grass growing anyhow. So I decided to improve that place. So that's the place where everybody is sitting now because, so really you can make the difference. And I have to say, the difference here, in this place here, we've been here for almost 10 years. There is not a single day that I've said the staff of IITA, if spend one day, they don't see the alert. the alert for the salary. They start saying what's happening one day. I want to tell you, for the 10 years, there is not single day that people have not got their pay. What it means, for you as a leader, you have to do this. It's people first. If you don't care about the people, really, and you don't put the people as your first priority, then no improvement, no progress as a leader you can make with. As most of the time, our leader make a mistake, basically, of saying, oh, infrastructure, let me start with infrastructure. And they go for it. And you have a good example, let's Ajimobi here. Yeah, he developed infrastructure, but that was good. But at the end, people didn't vote for it. Simply because he didn't take care.
Stomach infrastructure.
So the strategy we use here, when I came and did not see all these places were full of rubbish, and the first thing I did, I think it is this one here. I'll tell you two things. If you take this, Dora, we will not put pages here. Here, there's people first. Can you open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? You see people in the field picking all the rubbish. They were with me. I said, well, this place look very dirty. I can't give just an order to go and remove the rubbish, but I want people to start understanding that this is going to be part of our culture. Every time when you find a bottle thrown, you remove it and so on. That was the first thing I did to change the mentality of the people. The second thing was this place, there were two things. As I said, the DG was considered as a semi-god here. My 6th predecessor, if they are coming here, you better run away. And I was a scientist here. I spent 13 years. If I come to this office, my building was there. If I'm called to come here, I spend all day praying God. Say, oh my God, to keep my job. And well, the first thing I said, you demystify that position, so that people see that you are a worker just like them. And to do that, the first meeting I organized was not with my deputy director general or the managers. The first meeting I organized with staff, the first seminar, was with drivers and basically the front desk, like in iHouse, the people. That was my first meeting, and I made sure that I invited the directors as well. So the drivers, 3 days workshop, I put them in iHouse there, and they were having the room closer to the directors. So I remember very well one of the driver, Tunde, is waking up in his room, and they're going to breakfast. They meet with the director. And the director said, oh, are you coming to pick me? And Tunde said, no, I'm going for breakfast. So basically, this changing that mindset was extremely important. And I remember when I was a DG elect, I was in Nairobi for day here. they sent Bode to come and interview the new Director General. And he was used, he can't talk to the Director General. When he came to Nairobi, my office, he came. I didn't know him. He said, I'm coming from IITA, I'm in journal communication, I'm coming to interview. And I said, oh, fine, please come and have a seat. Start sweating. Start sweating. I said, no, I didn't know his name. I said, please sit down. And I called my secretary, Nita, please, what do you want to drink? You want coffee, tea? Well, it's difficult to make a choice. Briefly, I'll tell you humility is absolutely very important in our leadership. And I will tell you, and I'll finish probably with examples. The governor of Edo State came here. We met with him. And we met with him. And he said, well, okay, Sanginga, IITA, I'd like you to come and help me with two programs, YAM and Sava in Edo State. And so, oh, that's fine. And so please send your commissioner, and then I can put them in contact with my staff. So they can work on the program. And a week later, we send the commissioner. There were two. Also agriculture and education, because I think because the governor sent the doctor, the DG is a big guy, maybe white, and they came here and constantly they were parking at the place where I park, and I have a car in country with nice, it's a very, very small car. And when I was getting out of the car, they called me with order. You come here. Down there. And I said, okay, yes, sir. I said, what do you want? He said, they didn't even greet me. Where is office of DG? And I said, sir, you have to take this route, turn right. I'm sure the secretary is there, and she will tell you where the DG is. They couldn't even acknowledge. No, he's not doing that. Thank you. The big guy is very well dressed. And went there. So I stayed a little bit. I want to make sure that they are with the secretary. Then I came, I took this door here. I went to my office here. They couldn't see me. I sat there and I called my assistant and I said, Bimbo, please give them tea, some coffee. I usually don't do that. I don't like to have people waiting for me, but I want to give a lesson to those guys. For 30 minutes, I kept them waiting. So then when it was the time, I called Bimbo and I said, Bimbo, and I sent them in. I was in a gym and a small shed, you know. So when they're coming, I opened the door for them. When they saw me, they all went back.
Maybe they went to the wrong door.
So I said, no, please come. And I had the table there, and I said, please sit down and so on. When you could see that, you know. And we start talking and so on, and then finally, you know, the end was it all. They said, sir, if all our governors were like you. Anyway, let me thank you very much for this visit. I believe it goes just beyond probably interviewing me or asking the question. I've been thinking, and there's something is happening in my mind, and I discussed a little bit with Kati, and I said we can look at this and trying to transform this opportunity in something which could be, let me put it this way, a joint project of communication and us IITA on a subject matter. Yeah. On a subject matter of interest. And it would be best to just think about it. It could be, how, for example, in our STEP program, the Start Them Early program, we could start basically having a strategic plan of communication. Not to communicate about STEP, but communication be part of the pillar of a program of that nature. This as a way of illustrating that would be the project has three components. And component which can be important is about communication and defining what that could be. That's an idea. There could be other ideas where we could start developing. This is a program that's just like that. That's also major programs that you've seen being used at the NEF program. That's how it starts. Starts with an idea. And there's a commitment on the people and having a group of the people that you've been. We can think about that. And yes, you never know, that could be one of the things that come out of this chieftaincy that started also this program. So I just want you to think about that. And maybe we can, just in the future, organize a kind of a group and think about that. And yes, they look for money on how we can have that being one of the components. For sure, be a component of ALI. There's a new institution that we are creating. And, leadership, changing your leadership with those communication and all of those things and so on. So I have to apologize because I have to go to this board meeting and continue having a very good sojourn here. Thank you very much.
Just like Kathy to close formally this session in your presence so that we can continue after you. Kathy.
Okay, so on behalf of IITA, we'd like to thank our guests from DRC and of course from Nigeria and our colleagues also from Lagos and Badang for joining us today to present the DG's journey to IITA stories, and establish new relationships with everyone in this room. So we will continue the conversation. And, thank you for your time and being with us today. And we will keep in touch. And please also make sure that you take this on as a personal advocacy, like most of us are saying. So the journey of agriculture or improving agriculture to really be everybody's business. And I think the media has a lot of power in making sure that happens. So yeah, we encourage you to play and work with the IITA in making sure that. Thank you so much. Everyone.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, we're inviting all our media colleagues for lunch at the guest house. We're sorry, you may not be able to continue the tour, but if you're still around after lunch, we can still do that. Then for those leaving for